When you think about what a French person looks like, what comes to mind? Is it like one single image?
Mm.
Or do you maybe picture, I don't know, a whole range of different faces, each telling a story?
It's a really interesting question to start with, because the surprising thing is, and our sources really hammer this home, there just isn't one look.
Right.
All those different images you might be thinking of, they're all French. And that's the mystery we're diving into today, isn't it?
Exactly. France, maybe more than almost anywhere else, it just doesn't fit into one neat visual box. It's got this kaleidoscope of appearances, sometimes even the same family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our big question for this deep dive is,
Mm.
what makes France's people look so, well, so different? And this isn't just about modern immigration, though that's part of it.
No, it's much older.
It's a story woven deep into its history.
Uh,
So we're going to explore how France's, unique spot on the map, centuries of people moving through, the legacy of its empire,
mm.
and even some really deep genetic influences have all shaped the incredibly diverse French face you see today. This deep dive is kind of your shortcut to understanding all that complexity.
And what's really compelling, I think, is how clearly the history and the science lay it all out. It's a story of constant connection, mixing, changing.
Right.
France's geography, just where it sits right in the middle of Western Europe, that's played this huge ongoing role. You can't overstate it.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. France is a crossroads. What does that actually mean for the people living there? How did its physical position shape things differently than, say, other European countries that also saw migration?
That's a great point, because it's more than just lines on a map. France is basically this massive land bridge. It borders Spain, Italy, Germany, Belgium, Switzerland, Luxembourg, Andorra, Monaco.
Wow, yeah.
And then you've got the Atlantic on one side, the Mediterranean on the other. It's not just geography. It's been like a highway for history.
Highway.
Yeah, connecting the south of Europe to the north and the Med right into the heart of the continent. And historians stress, this isn't new. France has been a crossing point, a real melting pot for empires, for different
Cool.
peoples since the Neolithic era.
That's a Neolithic. Okay, that's ancient. So what kind of scale are we talking about, these historical movements?
We're talking huge successive waves, sometimes overlapping, people moving in, conquering, settling. It permanently changed the population mix. You start with the Celtic Gauls, kind of the bedrock.
Right.
Then the Roman legions march in, bringing influences from all over their empire, including the Med and North Africa. Then you get the Germanic Franks coming from the east. They actually gave the country its name, France.
Okay.
Later on, you have Muslim Moors coming up from the south, especially in the early medieval period, a big cultural influence there. And even Viking raiders hitting the northern coasts.
And like you said, it didn't stop there. After those ancient and medieval times, you've got colonial immigrants coming from Africa, Asia. So it's this incredibly long, continuous mixing of different groups that shaped France's genes.
Precisely. This constant flow, this human superhighway effect, it's created one of the richest, most complex gene pools in Europe. The result, as one source puts it really nicely, is a fascinating patchwork of features you see in French faces today.
A patchwork.
It's not random. It's like a living map of thousands of years of human movement and interaction.
Speaking of that patchwork, let's get into skin tone. It's one of the
Yeah.
most obvious things, right? But a lot of people probably still think of France as European white. The data, though,
Yeah.
it tells a different story.
It absolutely does. That
Okay.
single label is just, well, it's not enough. There was this big dermatological survey in 2021, right across France. Really eye-opening numbers.
Okay.
It found 41% had fair skin, what dermatologists call Fitzpatrick or 2. Skin that burns easily doesn't tan much.
Okay, nearly half.
But then 36% had light olive to medium tones, Fitzpatrick the 3rd or 4. Skin that tans more easily might burn a bit.
Right.
And almost a quarter, 23%, had deep brown or dark brown skin, Fitzpatrick, Vier, or 6. And the survey specifically mentioned this includes people with North African, Caribbean, Sub-Saharan African, and Southeast Asian heritage. That's a huge range.
23%.
Yeah.
That's significant. And it's crucial, like you hinted, that this isn't just recent immigration, right?
Exactly, though that adds to it, of course. But these darker tones also reflect really ancient influences. Take southern France, Provence, Occitanie. You see strong Mediterranean pigmentation patterns there.
Okay.
And that's linked directly back to the Greeks and Romans being there thousands of years ago. So those populations always had a different, often darker complexion compared to northern Europeans.
So even way back then, the South wasn't visually uniform with the North. And today, you see those darker tones really visible in cities like Marseille, Paris. And it's not just first-generation immigrants. France has had large black and Arab populations for generations,
Right.
especially from former colonies, Algeria, Senegal, Martinique. Their descendants are just French.
Indeed. Which really makes you question this idea of typical, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
clear takeaway from all the sources is the typical French skin tone. It doesn't exist. Simple as that.
Right.
It's just this amazing spectrum, a reflection of millennia of people moving and adapting.
And you see that spectrum just as clearly, maybe even more clearly, with eye color.
Hmm.
That's such a vivid marker of this diversity. There was a big study in 2018, right?
Yes, a national phenotypic study. It broke it down. 53% brown eyes,
Okay, majority.
27% hazel or green eyes, and 20% blue or gray eyes.
1 in 5 with blue or gray.
But what's really fascinating is how much these numbers change depending on where you look in France.
Regionally.
Exactly. Go to northern France, Normandy, Brittany, Alsace. Lighter eyes are much more common. Actually, some villages in Brittany report over 35% blue eyes.
35%. Wow.
Yeah. It's a direct genetic footprint, likely from that strong Celtic and Nordic mix, including historic Viking settlements on the coast who brought those genes centuries ago.
That really paints a different picture than just French people have brown eyes. So meanwhile, down south.
Down south, Languedoc, Corsica, Marseille, much more likely to find darker eyes. And genetic studies, back in 2017, they confirmed a strong link between the mitochondrial DNA in these regions and North African and Southern European populations.
Underscoring that ancient Mediterranean connection again.
Precisely. Mitochondrial DNA, just for listeners, it passes down from the mother, so it's a great way to trace maternal ancestry back through time.
Okay.
So those darker eyes in the south are literally genetic echoes of thousands of years of Mediterranean links. And then, yeah, you've got Paris.
The melting pot.
Exactly. The sources call it an urban mosaic, a place where you find nearly every eye color you can imagine, from deep black to icy gray. It's like the whole country's diversity squeezed into one city.
So brown, blue, green, hazel, all authentically French. It really forces you to rethink that default mental image, doesn't it? It's just so much richer. And that richness extends to facial structure too, right? It's not just color, it's the actual shape of faces. Anthropologists talk about different types.
That's right. The bone structure itself varies.
Yeah.
Up in northern France, Normandy, Brittany, Alsace, again, you often see stronger jawlines, more angular faces, maybe higher cheekbones. Features often linked to those Celtic and Germanic roots.
Okay. And then it's central and western France,
Yeah.
like around Paris or the Loire Valley.
There you tend to find maybe more balanced features. Oval faces, medium noses. This is sometimes called the classic French look, although, even that term is a bit generalizing.
Sure, lots of variation within that too.
Definitely. And then head further south, Occitanie, Provence, Corsica. The influences there are more Mediterranean, Moorish, even Berber from North Africa.
Right.
So you might see softer jawlines, maybe fuller lips, deeper set eyes. And there was a craniofacial study in 2016 that looked at head shapes too.
Head shapes.
Yeah, like overall skull shape. It found about 38% were mesocephalic, kind of balanced, average proportions. Then 34% were dolichocephalic, longer, narrower skulls. And 28% were brachycephalic, rounder heads, which were apparently more common in alpine areas and near borders.
Interesting. So all these different shapes and features, they contribute to this perception of French faces being, I don't know, elegant or strong or refined or bold.
Exactly. But the key word, again and again in the research, is just diversity.
Always diversity.
Yeah.
Okay, what about something like height and build? France has this image, elegance, fashion. Does that translate to a specific body type? What are the averages?
Well, the image is strong, but the reality is, again, varied. According to Eurostat data from 2022, the average French man is about 177.5 centimeters. That's roughly 5'10".
Okay.
And the average French woman is 164.4 centimeters, so about 5'4.5".
How does that compare?
It puts them slightly shorter than, say, Germans or the Dutch, but a bit taller than Italians or Spanish on average.
And just like faces, are there regional differences in height and build too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The data suggests northern French folks tend to be a bit broader, maybe taller overall, again, probably linked to that Celtic and Germanic ancestry.
Right.
Whereas southern French populations are, statistically, a bit shorter and leaner, more similar to other Mediterranean builds.
And why is that? Just genetics.
It's likely a mix. Genetics play a big part, of course, but also centuries of different regional diets and the fact that regions were quite isolated from each other for a long time before, modern transport and everything.
Makes sense. So history shapes everything, even average height. Are those differences still noticeable today?
They're starting to smooth out, apparently. As France becomes more connected, people move around more, diets become more similar. Those old regional distinctions are getting less pronounced.
Fascinating. Okay, this leads us to a really important and sometimes tricky point. This whole controversy around who looks French. In a country that thinks a lot about identity, secularism, Frenchness, this question gets political, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's important we just report what the sources say here, staying impartial. Some narratives, often associated with right-wing politics, try to frame Frenchness as white, Catholic, Gallic, promoting a very specific, narrow image.
But the science, what does the science say?
The science directly challenges that narrow view. There was a big study in 2017 from INSERM, the French National Institute for Health and Medical Research. It stated very clearly, and this is a quote, "The modern French genome is a mixture of Celtic, Roman, Germanic, Iberian, North African, and Sub-Saharan ancestry."
Wow. Iberian, North African, Sub-Saharan. That's a very clear scientific statement against that narrow idea.
It absolutely is. What the science really shows is that the French face has always been mixed. This isn't new. It's the historical reality. And if
Right.
you look at today's demographics, it's even clearer. Think about this. 1 in 3 Parisians has at least one parent born outside Europe.
1 in 3 in Paris. That's
Mm.
huge.
Yeah. And over 8 million French citizens can trace ancestry back to former African colonies. Plus, maybe the most telling thing, mixed-race French citizens are the fastest growing group in the whole country right now.
So really, when you ask who looks French,
Mm.
based on the history, the science, the current reality,
Mm-hmm.
the only answer is
Everyone.
everyone.
There's something almost poetic about it, isn't there? When you think about that deep history reflected in faces today,
Yeah.
it's like a living mosaic. Soft edges, sharp contrasts, all telling that story. You might see, I don't know, a hint of Moorish history in a smile from Provence, or that Celtic fire and hazel eyes from Brittany, or even like the rhythm of Afro-Caribbean heritage in the way someone moves or wears their hair in Paris. France doesn't hide this complexity. It's right there on the streets. It's part of its identity.
And that brings us to this idea of the visual legacy of empire. What you see in Lyon or Marseille or Lille, it's not just, abstract multiculturalism.
Yeah.
It's the actual visible result of a massive, complicated empire. A history of conquest, colonization, difficult stuff, yes, but also a story of return, people coming back, integrating, building a shared future.
Exactly right. It's about generations now who were born in France, speak French, live French lives, but they carry the features, the genetics of grandparents maybe born in Algiers or Dakar or Haiti or Hanoi.
Right.
France's diversity isn't some kind of recent trend you can argue about. It's a historical truth.
And it's written right into the bones of its people for centuries. So let's loop back our original question for this deep dive. What makes French people look so different?
Yeah. And maybe the better question now is, how could they not look different? Think about it. France has always been right in the middle of everything. Wars, wine, art, empire, revolution, resistance. Its position, its history guaranteed this constant flow of people, genes, ideas for thousands of years.
So the people reflect that history.
They absolutely reflect that incredibly rich, complex, dynamic history. Not with one look, but with many, many looks.
So the next time someone says, or maybe even you think to yourself, you don't look French? Maybe just pause for a second.
Yeah.
And remember that French doesn't really look like one specific thing. It sounds like something. It feels like something. And crucially, it looks like everyone.
It's a really powerful thought, isn't it? Makes you wonder how many other countries, even ones we think we know, we might be visually stereotyping.
Right.
And what amazing histories, what incredible human stories we're missing because we don't take that deeper look, that deep dive into their real, diverse human tapestry.